With a relatively strong start in theaters and now entering its third weekend frame, we're going to ask a simple question today. Is the Batman movie of 2022 from director Matt Reeves and starring Robert Pattinson really doing as well financially as you think?
It's lights out! Now you want to get nuts! Come on! Let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? What?
Let's talk about it. Here we go.
Renegade Online.
Well, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. Good to see everybody out there again. And as always, if you are like one of the many folks watching these videos not yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button right below this video. Hit that notification bell. Share this sucker out on social medias, and especially do leave a comment before you check out and a like. Those are big helps on YouTube, and they help continue to grow the channel. We've had some amazing growth in the past year doing videos like this because, as always, we love to put Hollywood through the business and financial lens of reality, and today, folks, is absolutely no different. We are going to take the Batman movie here of 2022 and stick it through that lens and find out just how well it is looking to stack up against some of the more historically popular Batman films. So let's start talking about it. The Batman movie of 2022 is entering its third weekend frame, and a lot of conversation has been happening regarding whether or not this new Matt Reeves Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson has the gravitas to take down Tim Burton and Michael Keaton's Batman 1989 and the Chris Nolan, Christian Bale Batman film The Dark Knight from 2008 at the box office. Warner Brothers and Warner Media have presented audiences with 4 iterations of the world's greatest detective on the big screen, which is a testament to the strength of the Batman character and the brand. Now in 2022, we get Robert Pattinson, who, like many Batman actors before, had to contend with their fair share of debate as to whether the casting was the best choice, but that debate is for another video. All that matters here is how well each generation of Batman fares when compared to one another, with the exception of Ben Affleck, as unfortunately, the Affleck Batman only appeared in other ensemble films. Coming into its third week, the Batman currently stands at roughly $260 million in North America or domestic box office. Regardless of the comparison today, that's a healthy start for a Batman film. But how does it really compare to Batman 1989 and The Dark Knight in 2012? If we look at some historical data provided by thenumbers.com, it seems pretty clear that The Dark Knight starring Christian Bale, the biggest success of the Nolan-led franchise, is still the clear frontrunner based purely on unadjusted dollars to this point. At casual glance, it would also seem 1989's Batman, starring Michael Keaton, really wasn't all that spectacular of a box office phenomenon. Except, of course, it was. Batman stormed into the box office that year, hauling in over $250 million from domestic audiences. It trounced the second-place film of the year by more than 20%. That was a largely forgotten film about some college professor and his dad looking for a cup or something. I don't remember. Now, if we're to foolishly stop the discussion there, we could say that 2022's The Batman movie will be surpassing that 33-year-old record this week in North American theaters. But of course, that isn't even close to being the case in reality because, once again, these are unadjusted dollars. The National Association of Theater Owners has been tracking average movie ticket prices for decades. Through 1988, NATO used the U.S. Consumer Price Index, the CPI, as a measure to adjust annual movie ticket inflation. But in 1989, the same year that Batman came out, no coincidence, I guess, NATO made the switch to member surveys for more accurate data and reporting. a method they still use to this very day. So instead of using national inflation figure averages, which are a macroeconomic measure, they get actual price and sales data from places like AMC and Cinemark Regal and IMAX and Marcus Theaters, the guys that actually sell the tickets. In 1989, NATO reports that the average U.S. movie ticket price was $3.99 U.S. To make the math easy, let's just call it $4. That would put 1989's Batman with North American sales at roughly 62.75 million tickets. In 2008, NATO reported the average U.S. movie ticket price when The Dark Knight released was about $7.18 U.S. With $530 million in domestic haul, that puts total sales of The Dark Knight at roughly 74.2 million tickets. Now, unfortunately, the last full year of reporting that NATO has released was 2019, with North American average ticket prices at $9.16 U.S., because 2020 was a dead year for theatrical releases and 2021 was barely alive until the fourth quarter. There really hasn't been yet enough data to make an official tally. But what about 2022? I mean, surely NATO will have some figures by early 2023 to look back on this year and tell us what they were, but what if we had enough data from other sources to make a very educated approximation on what those ticket prices might be for this movie right now? Well, that's why you came here, isn't it? If you went to films like Ghostbusters Afterlife or Spider-Man No Way Home in 2022, you already know that $9 was likely among the cheapest general admission prices out there. Most folks were paying $10 or even as high as $15 to $17 for prime time at IMAX or specialty theaters. Further still, AMC announced that 2022's The Batman would mark their venture into variable ticket pricing, meaning that AMC would charge higher prices for admission to big tentpole films like The Batman. And just yesterday, Cinemark Regal Theaters dropped their own quarterly investor and SEC report. Now, apart from the obvious news that 2021 showed substantially higher revenues than 2020, and that they expect that to be even more robust in 2022, they did say plainly that one of the major reasons for the sharp increases in sales was that in 2021, they increased ticket prices roughly 20% over 2019 and 2020. Now, I can promise you that Cinemark isn't alone, and AMC theaters, IMAX, Marcus, etc., they all have significantly raised prices in the past year since they were able to reopen. So what does that mean? If you combine that huge average price increase with premium variable pricing on movies like The Batman, we're getting very close to a $12 average per ticket for 2022's The Batman. And remember, many of the bragging rights recently for big opening weekends come from super premium pricing at places like IMAX branded theaters, where tickets often land between $15 to $20 each for primetime. And I want you to think about the Friday figures that we got for The Batman, which we discussed in a previous video, where we made it apparent, as did the record in terms of the ticket sales, that the Thursday night previews, which roll into the Friday figures, also included Tuesday and Wednesday night previews at IMAX theaters. So with all that in mind, 2022's The Batman has an average ticket price almost 3 times higher than Batman did in 1989. It also has a ticket price that is roughly 60% higher than The Dark Knight in 2008. So what does that do to the box office comparison? With today's ticket prices, Tim Burton and Michael Keaton's Batman 1989 would have closed out with over $750 million at the North American box office, and 2008's Chris Nolan and Christian Bale's The Dark Knight would have walked off with almost $890 million domestically. Again, no international figures, no global box office, just domestic. In order for The Batman to truly beat its most famous predecessors, it would need to triple its domestic box office by Tuesday, April 19th, when the movie lands for free on HBO Max. Now, folks, that ain't going to happen, and it won't even get close. Then, of course, there's the issue of costs, where The Dark Knight and The Batman both have relatively similar production budgets in the last 10 years when adjusted for inflation. 1989, Tim Burton's Batman still clocks in at around half the production costs of the two more modern films. Now, it's possible that the international markets will help it clear more of the hurdle, but you can't really compare global markets of today to those of 1989. There were simply far fewer of them. Now, based on the opening weekend and the film's trajectory at this point, I think The Batman will level off by the time it makes it to HBO Max, somewhere around $350 to $375 million domestic gross. Now, that's still very respectable, but it's still nowhere near enough to take down the champs of The Dark Knight and Batman from 1989. Thanks for joining us today, and as always, please hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias like Twitter and Facebook, and of course, do leave a comment before you head out the door today. I want to get your thoughts on what you think about the movie itself, The Batman with Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves, and also, what do you think about this box office talk? Or do you think that The Batman can actually pull off a massive upset and trounce the former films that we mentioned, or do you think it's going to fall by the wayside? And until next time, take care.